we are absolutely delighted to have back on for our second episode Cathy Harries and Andrea Hinckley from Second Skin.
In the last conversation, we tried to do all of it in one go, but we just thought, too many questions. Too many questions from Anton and I, and too many great answers.
In the context of assistive technology and Second Skin dynamic garments, we're obviously looking at, as Cathy's already said, what are their goals, what are they trying to achieve, and how can that device, so that assistive technology or the Second Skin splint, how can that help them to achieve that in amongst all the other things?
Because we know a lot more about neuroplasticity these days and how much we can actually impact on change if we impact early.
The only thing that got him across the line to think about wearing a splint was this cool fabric that we've got, which is called Shimmering Flames, and it is all shimmering flames, and he went, oh, I'll wear that.
The key for us is absolute comfort, because none of us will wear anything that is uncomfortable. Practice is the key, and I think the other key is practice being incorporated into your daily routine, so it's not seen as this boring practice routine.
And Andy, I love what you said. Low function does not mean no function.
Next episode of Wheel Chat. I'm Anton Mitchell, and I am very much delighted to have Justin Boulos again with me. Justin, how you doing, pal? You all right?
Fantastic, thank you. It's again still great weather over here, and life is as good as always.
Well, I'm actually delighted to say that we are having much better weather also. So,
Finally.
So, no, life is good. Life is good here in the UK. But listen, let's get straight into it today, because we are absolutely delighted to have back on for our second episode Cathy Harries and Andrea Hinckley from Second Skin. Guys, if you haven't heard the first one, you've got to check it out. But Second Skin are a leader in the design and manufacture and service delivery of custom-made medical compression garments and dynamic splints. Wow, there's a tongue twister. Yes. But I'll tell you, there is a fantastic product. But more importantly, what's even more fantastic is the guys that work there. Cathy, Andrea, how are you today?
Good, thank you. Very good. Thanks for having us again, guys.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. We had a great time last time.
We survived round one, and we got so excited we thought we've got to do a round two. And more specifically, with cerebral palsy, I suppose in the last conversation we tried to do all of it in one go, but we just thought, too many questions. Too many questions from Anton and I, and too many great answers. And rather than try to rush it and fit too much in, why not just have these two lovely ladies back on for round two to talk about cerebral palsy? Anton, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I'm really buzzed about it, because I don't know about you, Justin, but certainly on my day-to-day, I'm dealing with a huge amount of clients with all physical and neurological disabilities, but one of the main ones is cerebral palsy. So, and I reckon a lot of the listeners are also the same, especially within the pediatrics. But I think what we really want to chat about as well is not just peds. We want to talk about, meeting somebody at that stage, and then, going into adulthood. Currently, what we would love to chat about, guys, if it's all right with you, is just when you're meeting somebody for the first time from a cerebral palsy point of view, talk us through that process and maybe what the things you would be considering straight away are.
Oh my goodness, that's a very big question, Antoine. That's a very big question. I think for us, about working out where you're at as a person with cerebral palsy and what you want out of the next part of your life. And as a family, what is it that you may want for your child to be able to achieve as far as possible? And how do we fit into that global sort of picture of all of the interventions that you might be doing? Because most people that we meet with cerebral palsy have got therapists and medical practitioners. They might have a pediatrician, a rehab specialist, a neurologist, lots of the orthopedic specialist type team that they see as well. And so they've got a whole wealth of knowledge from all different people, but it's about how do we fit into the overall plan so that everybody is on the same page and we're all heading in the same direction, with the family and the person with cerebral palsy clearly on board and in charge of that process. And so For us, it's about helping to identify what we might be able to achieve and what we could assist you to achieve, and how we then fit into your lifestyle, your goals as a family, your big picture, medically as well as socially, at school, work, all of the environments that you may go to.
Yeah.
Assist you to participate in whatever way suits you.
And so for just everyone who doesn't understand, what does need to happen when you meet clients who have cerebral palsy? Like, what is the issue that we're essentially trying to resolve?
With CP, it presents very differently for everyone. And I think that's the first thing to really understand. There's a spectrum of presentations from people who are very functionally impaired to those that are not. So you need to kind of see where people fit on that spectrum in relation to their goal and their life and environment, and what they need to achieve. It's a group of disorders. It affects motor function, it affects posture, it affects movement. So we need to make sure that we're looking at someone physically and how they're presenting physically in the context of what they do in their everyday life, whether they're walking from the bus to school, whether they're getting in and out of the car, whether they're going to the movies, whatever it is, look at them in the context of what they're doing. CP affects coordination, it affects sensory systems, it affects range of motion. So you need to kind of really do a bit of a physical assessment, which these people probably have been through multiples of before they get to you. So you can obviously gather all that information so you don't have to repeat, they don't have to repeat themselves a million times. That's obviously a really helpful thing to do. And in the context of assistive technology and second skin dynamic garments, we're obviously looking at, as Cathy's already said, what are their goals, what are they trying to achieve, and how can that device, that assistive technology or the second skin splint, how can that help them to achieve that in amongst all the other things? Because these clients come to us with a humongous group of people already working with them, and that's pretty overwhelming.
So cerebral palsy, just to summarize what you said, can mean a range of different, I guess, impacts on someone's function. But essentially, the signals from the brain to the muscles aren't firing correctly, and multiple things can happen. Whether someone has high tone, or so they're like a spasticity, rigidity, they could have low tone. I believe you call it hypotonia, so it could be a low tone, could be an impact with the movement. So what is it that you guys are trying to do with second skin to help with them? And when should they start that process? The CP being a congenital condition, something that they're born with, are you in the labor room? Are you waiting a few weeks? Are you waiting a few years? At what point should we start to look at second skin?
We had started prescribing splints for much younger children over the years than when we first started, 35 odd years ago. We were mostly looking at sort of early primary school and above. Early intervention is definitely all about early intervention these days. And so we do provide splints for small children. The youngest we've got in a body splint at the moment would be about 12 months of age. And that's because early intervention is about what difference we can make in those early parts of your brain development and your skin and your skill development that will assist you to develop those skills going forward as you grow. And that's the same goals that all therapists and all the medical teams are working on, because we know a lot more about neuroplasticity these days and how much we can actually impact on change if we impact early, rather than you develop those skills that in a really challenging way going forward. Can we impact on your movement pattern, your control, your ability to sit for longer, your ability to use a switch or drive a wheelchair, your ability to walk up or even walk independently? Can we impact on those things early while those skills are developing as part of your general gross motor development?
And then how would you identify, if I'm a therapist or even a parent with a child with cerebral palsy, at what point am I even, you mentioned that there's a wide spectrum and not everyone's the same. And so, I work with a lot of clients, me personally work with a lot of clients with CP at different ages. Should they all go into second skin? Like what is the I don't know, the canary in the coal mine, the signal to be like, hey, we should probably look at second skin? Is it more around function? Is it around a test with range of motion? Like, is it a functional test? How do I know when to engage in a product like this?
Developmentally, we're looking for you starting to struggle or already struggling with a skill that you're trying to learn. So if you're trying to learn sitting skills and you can only sit for a very brief period of time with multiple hands on you holding you up, that doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to practice that skill and learn to sit more independently as you grow. So if we can assist you to develop those sitting skills for a more stable base with better body awareness, better balance, better ability to be able to practice that for longer, then we see that we're the tool that would assist that process. So very much like the therapist with their hands on, assisting you to practice and teaching families how to do those things at home, we're giving you another tool that you can wear that assists the learning of those skills as you develop. So we're looking for little people where those things are already a challenge and where everybody knows because of the extent of their cerebral palsy that those things will be a challenge as they grow. The earlier we can assist you to practice those skills when you're just starting out, the better outcomes we see further down the track.
And that is along the lines of the neuroplasticity stuff that we talked about in the previous podcast and Cathy mentioned before, is the opportunity to practice and that repetition every day, every week, every month. Second Skin is a tool to help someone to do that outside therapy sessions and outside mom and dad, doing handling skills, Second Skin, to add to the tool belt.
Yeah. The timing of it, though, definitely has to be right in terms of everything else that you're doing with your therapy program. So if you don't have your therapist yet and you don't have a bench to practice on or you haven't got your seating equipment organised yet, then a splint's not going to really be of great service to you. So we have to fit what we're prescribing in with all of your equipment, all your therapy program, and have the timing right for that. So if you're a very little person and you're just practicing rolling on the floor, we would not be prescribing a body splint to help you yet with your sitting skills, because at this stage you're being carried around a lot, you're held a lot, and you're maybe just starting to practice rolling on the floor, where a splint might actually inhibit some of that rolling practice rather than necessarily be an advantage. But as soon as everybody starts practicing that ability to sit and maintain your head up, then that's a very different conversation.
I agree. But can you do me a favor? Can you talk to me as if I've no idea what second splint is or what it is? Like, maybe even give some examples for those who are not listening. Because again, I know we always tend to talk on these things about like as if everyone knows what we're talking about. But say you're talking to someone who's never even heard of second skin or doesn't even know what we're talking about. What are some examples or really common ones that you see where you see exactly that we implement a splint and now the child can do what, or is, allows them to build on what?
On those skills. Yeah. So commonly we prescribe what we call a lateral stability splint. So it's a little body splint essentially that has short legs that end above your knee and it has short sleeves that end above your elbow. And it zips completely open so that it makes it easy for families to put it on. You don't have to take the whole thing off every time you change the nappy and put it back on again. And we use layers of fabric to give you self-stability, but we can also use a directional line of pull on the fabric that guides you into a better posture. So we can change your hip posture, your pelvic position, what you do with your shoulder position or with the fabric. So it's almost like an active assistant, kind of gently moving it into that posture as you practice. And then we use flexible boning on some people over the top of that to give you greater stability if you need it. So if you've got involuntary movement and you struggle for control, or if you're really struggling to lift the weight of your head up, it might mean that you need some boning in your splint as well as the fabric to do both of those things, the positioning as well as the structure to give you some support. But we very much focus on something that you practice in, not a splint that does all the work for you.
I like the directional line of pull to people, like when you apply taping to your body, you can feel the tape doing a pull on you to position your body in a certain way. And I describe the boning as the hands of a therapist on you, but it would be too expensive and too annoying to have us around all the time. So that's kind of how I describe it to clients. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining that. Anton, I feel like I'm going to ask 1,000 questions and I feel like I'm dominating. Chris, did you have any questions before I keep going?
I'm just really enjoying it. No, it's all good. It's all good. I think that everyone is listening is going to be taking a lot in. So, feel free to crack on. I think what I certainly taking from it is actually it's very similar to the approach that we do with wheelchairs. Like the chat that you've been saying. Yeah. So, I don't think anyone needs to be scared of this. I think that's probably because I think a lot of people might be listening to this going, I have no idea. I've never seen this suit before. There will be lots of people that do know of Second Skin because you're really well known. But I also think there's a lot of people that are maybe thinking to themselves, okay, what is this? What does it do? And I think you're making a really good explanation of that. But I also think, like what Justin's asking is, which you're answering really well, is, when do we need this? Why would we need this? And how will it benefit us in the future? I think that what we see with wheelchairs and offering the correct seating is exactly the same thing. If we get in early enough, then hopefully that early intervention leads to better outcomes, leads to less in the future, etc., etc. I suppose my question is, what happens if we don't use the suit, right? If we don't meet someone early and you're meeting somebody, well, let's actually go into adulthood. So somebody is 20 years old and they haven't had any intervention. They've had molded seating in their wheelchair. They've had excellent sleep systems that they've not got on with, but they've tried. But they've got lots of seating options. So they've not had intervention. But I know myself the struggles that still leads to. Tell me what you do when you meet somebody in that position, please.
Oh, I think that's a very different kind of split because often you've got very established patterns of movement and very established postures in your spine as you've grown. And so you do see an acceleration in postural asymmetry, scoliosis, difficulties with increasing hip dislocation with age. Because growth really impacts on that. And then you get bigger and heavier. You tend to get most people we would see in adulthood are less active than the kids that we would see and the teenagers that we would see. And that's partly because there's not as much therapy available into adulthood always. There's not always the funding available for therapy in adults. And so if you don't have an ongoing gym program and an ongoing really active lifestyle by that stage, it gets much more difficult to maintain all of those things. So tendons get tighter, muscles get weaker, spines get stiffer.
And those positions that you go into, which aren't the most supportive or the best for you, they become the go-tos that you just stay in, and then muscles get tighter on one side versus the other, or your hips might rotate or your shoulders might slouch. Those positions become more so.
I know, as you say this now, I'm like, oh, my posture, I did it. Could I sit up now? But so what do you do then? So like, again, these people have developed these patterns now. Are we just trying to, I guess, reduce the impacts, of it getting worse? I guess once someone's hit 18, is correction ever a thing? Is that thing? I know some sleep systems claim that they can do some derotation and stuff like that for sleep systems, but that's because someone's relaxed it into the position for 8 hours. Is that a realistic goal of a second skin once someone's hit a certain age? Or
we look for how much passive range we've got, so how much actual length when we handle you can we achieve in terms of spinal posture, your position, knee extension, all of those things. So how much more symmetrical can we make you if we hold you and support you? And whatever we can do with our hands, that's what we're aiming to do with a split, and then have you wear that split for longer periods in your day. So you might do 5 or 6 days a week of wearing a split. That might add up to 35, 40 plus hours of being in a better position. But the split definitely need to work with great seating, active program, ongoing therapy, because there's no question, if you and I sit in our chair at our computer for a long time, we get stiffer, we get tighter and think, wow, I need to go for a walk. This is getting more difficult. We gain weight. We find things more difficult than we used to. And that's the same thing for people with cerebral palsy, except they've got the added difficulties on top of that, of difficulties with their muscle tone, muscle weakness, sensory changes, all of those things over time. And so they're working much harder than you and I do to maintain those skills going forward as you get older.
I think that when I think of a splint, I'm just wondering if people are thinking, who are driving along, maybe listening to the podcast, they might be thinking, if they haven't had experience with the suit, that it's a piece of wood or something hard, a piece of plastic that's rigid, and that. So I think that splint, and I'm not, you might shout me down here, but I think splint might not be the right word that we want to use here to describe what you guys do, because splinting for a lot of people will mean exactly what I've just said, right?
Yes.
So just for the people listening, this isn't rigid. It's a body suit or an area of the body that can be applied using the material of lycra or different layers of material with small boning within it. That's so different, guys, to what I would have thought myself without knowing this product, what a splint was. So if somebody's thinking, oh my gosh, a big chest brace that you see occasionally people wearing, these big plastic sort of, yeah, correct. Thank you, Justin, for showing it. That's not what you guys do, right?
No. It's a fabric-based splint, a material-based splint, but has stretch to it. And that's when we talked about the directional line of pull, you're able to stretch and move in the splint, because a lot of people need support, but they also need to move. So how do you balance the movement and the support? You do that through something that's dynamic. And that's what our splints are. They're dynamic. It's definitely not the hard thermoplastic splints we all learned back at uni or, back in our support worker days. It's not that hard splint. Saying that, some people do need that flexible boning. If you think, the old school corsets, but not as dramatic as that. And if you think, those that live in Australia will know, the full kind of mesh rashies that all the kids wear to protect them against the sun, but more compression and more customization and support than that.
The key part is absolute comfort, because none of us will wear anything that is uncomfortable. We don't like shoes that are uncomfortable. We won't wear underwear that's uncomfortable. You can't wait to get it off because we bought the wrong one. So it's the same thing with there's no way we can encourage any child or adult to put something on 5 days a week or even 6 and 7 days a week like some of the adults do if it's not comfortable to wear. So comfort, the real key.
And this is what I was gonna mention, to play devil's advocate for anyone that's listening, or any parents that might be listening thinking, oh, a second skin in Australia? My child's not gonna do that. I guess, what would you say to the people who would look at a second skin, or a parent that might look at it, or a therapist that might look at a second skin and think, no, I know you already mentioned nappies, you're not going to be able to manage a nappy through there. It's just another thing to add with dressing. And then, maybe I'll get my 5-year-old to do it. But once they get 13, 15, maybe they're going to be like, I don't want this, mom. Maybe they're a bit more defiant. And that's pretty typical what I see. Like, I see quite young kids in the, with real significant postures in them. I don't really see a lot of 16 to 25-year-olds in second skin. What happens there? And, then they come back to it once, the damage is done, and they're like, all right, now I've got real pain. So I suppose my question is, what would you say to someone who would look at it and think it's uncomfortable, or someone that is in it and says, I'm not comfortable with it?
We definitely, as Cathy said, want comfort to be number one. And if that takes us 5-6 times to get that sorted for someone, we will do that. We use our clinical reasoning and our experience to know what would work with this person. And the fabrics of the splint are antimicrobial and wick away moisture, like, all the hiking socks and all the hiking, mountain climbing, paired city fabrics, same type of stuff to make it comfortable. We ensure that we support where we need to support and reduce layers of fabric where we can. And, in Australia, there's, lots of kids that run around with, just their shorts or, a little singlet on, and that we made the splints really cool with different cool fabrics on it. So essentially you just need to put a pair of bike shorts or shorts over the top and you've got a built-in shirt. Really cool fabric like flames and Lego and rainbows and princesses. So it just looks like a shirt essentially. I just wanted to tell the story of an angsty 16-year-old guy I had, CP, with upper limb splinting, and he was reluctantly dragged in by his mother. And the only thing that got him across the line to think about wearing a splint was this cool fabric that we've got, which is called Shimmering Flames. And it is all shimmering flame. And he went, oh, I'll wear that. And it got him across the line to wear a splint. So sometimes it's all about the aesthetics. When you're 16 and you're angsty and you're angry with the world, you just want to be cool.
I think you need to chat to Marvel and get Spider-Man fabric license.
I think
The other key issue is that for every person who comes and every family who comes, you want them to have a wing. You actually want to say, that's a great piece of kit. It's made a real difference and I really like that. So you're not going to suggest to a 16-year-old that you have one of every piece of kit, no matter what it is, because you know that the odds of them putting it on each morning are going to be an argument at home to try and actually get that on. I've got to find something in my conversation with you that says this will deliver what you're looking for. So it might be the basketball team. It might be, I want to drive my wheelchair up and have this wheelchair if I can drive better. There's got to be something that I can pin it on that you think if I wear this, this is much easier for me, and then I will win you over. Not one of everything, not one of every body part that covers, because I'm not going to get a win if that's the case. So lots of people are better, I think, when you go step by step and they get a win and say, yeah, now I can tell the difference. Now I can feel what you're doing. Now I want to talk to you about my left foot. And that happens a lot. So we have people come for a hand splint. They come back and say, can you look at my foot while I'm here? And then we have a look at the next part of that story. But there's no way that you're going to say, oh, let's do one of all of these things, because none of us would manage that as part of our daily routine. Everyone's adding one more thing to their daily routine. So I think you've got to be mindful always that if you want engagement with people, it's got to be something that you think, I think I can do it. I think that's doable for us as a family and me as a person.
Perfection is the enemy of good. Yeah, as much as we probably want to, support everyone everywhere, but exactly what you said. Focus on a particular function, whether it be basketball, whether it be your hand on joystick, whether it be a rotation or something. Start with that, get some proven benefits. And I love what you said about explaining the why, because to a child, it doesn't matter. It's just, it's something to wear. Like, even wearing a shirt or putting pants on, getting pants on for some kids out the door is a chore. But I think if you explained, we need this so you can do this, is a great reinforcer and I guess an internal motivator for them to want to wear it and hopefully keep that energy throughout their teens, throughout their 20s. And so they're not coming to their 30s, falling apart and thinking, all right, now I really need something.
Because I think that one big thing that Cathy and I see a lot is a lot of early intervention in CP. They transition to adult services, and they go to uni and get jobs and live a great life. But then those secondary effects of the muscle weakness or the spasticity start to create pain, and it's that pain that gets people back because they just can't manage it any longer, and it really impacts their life. And what can we do to help people to manage that pain and position, upper limbs or bodies differently to help them to be able to get back to work and get through their work day so that they can get home to their family, for example. So yeah, that's something we see a lot.
And just to clarify the goals when you guys are working with clients, is it like a instant win, like wear the splint, now you can do this? Or is it like, hey, we're going to do this, so over time, then we can get the win? Like and maybe it's a bit of both, but are you more one or the other?
Sometimes, people be like, holy heck, wow, like straight away. And other people, it's a slow burn. And I think we had that conversation with people before we script something to say, look, some people see effects quickly and others it takes a little bit of time. And, back to the neuroplasticity thing, it's not, you don't go to therapy once and it's all sorted. It takes time to kind of plot away at things. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're learning sitting skill, you might put a splint on and say, wow, you look so much more upright and I don't need as many hands to hold you. But now the secret is how can you practice those sitting skills, consolidate them, get better at it, stronger at it, and more efficient at it over time. And that's a learning process. You have to do your runs on the board. And I tell people it's a little bit like going to the gym and looking in the door as opposed to going in. And you have to go in if you want to get stronger. You have to actually do the action, do the patterns of movement, do the practice, and in whatever way that means for you.
And return day after day.
Day after day to get it. Nothing is instant. If you want to get muscle bulk and control and power, you have to do it. If you get a walker and it's parked in the corner and you're not on it more than once a week, what's the odds of you getting very good at that walk and not break? The practice is the key. And I think the other key is practice being incorporated into your daily routine. So it's not seen as this boring practice routine. Is it about the basketball team? Could it be about wheelchair basketball? Could it be about accessing gaming with your Switch on the computer? Something that drives you to do more of it, but you also have fun when you're doing it is the thing that all of us will do, not boring. If it's boring, none of us are doing it.
So I get it, and I actually really like the gym connotation. I'm going to take that. Sorry, I'm going to steal that for sure. But I'm just wondering, because I'm sitting here going, with wheelchairs, if we're applying it to how we approach, we would provide a solution which hopefully is all good, and then maybe we have to go back in 6 months for a more complex. We would probably visit in between that initially, but every so often we will have a booked in reevaluation and relooking at it, reassessment. I presume it's no different with you guys as well, because if success of the suit leads to a development change, a physical presentation change, I presume you would have to go back and reevaluate and maybe tweak the suit or change the positioning to then go to the next stage. Is that right? And then, so for any therapists or parents or individuals who are actually listening that might benefit from a suit or a splint in this particular instance, what does that look like? What does that journey look like? And how, do I have to buy a new one? Can you use the existing one? Like, how does that work?
Well, for some families, they see improvements. And for example, with the lateral stability splint, the improvement might be that their setting skills are really going forward, and we might be able to take out some boning, for example, so we can take away some of the support. We have a lot of families with children with CP who get taller and, longer. And what that means for them is that suit doesn't fit them anymore. So how do we, and then, what has that growth meant for their hip joints and their spine and, their shoulder girdle? It might need some tweaking, but also, in length, we need to work on that. We have these amazing things called growth panels in our splints, particularly for the little E's and go and grow on us, where we can unpick certain parts of the split to allow for expansion across the chest and stomach, and allow for expansion through the crutch when they grow taller, and expansion in the inner thighs when they get muscles in their thigh. So there is capacity for it to grow with that. And some people come back to us, when their orthopedic surgeon has said you need to have some rods put in your back, for example. How do we then splint around that? So that would take obviously another assessment. So we connect with the local therapist via phone or email, via telehealth, and we, chat and see what we need to do and how things have progressed. And we have these lists of behind the scenes where we check up on people and make sure that, they're reviewed when they should be reviewed and changes are made when they need to be made.
Yeah, we try and get 12 months out of the vast majority of splits because it's a big thing for families to do, and it's a costly thing, obviously, because everything we do is custom made for you. And so you want that splint to last and to fit as long as it possibly can. So the vast majority of people would get 12 months out of a split. We like to check on you at least by 6 months after you've had it to unpick it if you've grown. We've also started including those expansion panels in some of the adults because they're either gaining weight, gaining muscle, changing their eating habits, whatever it may be, so that we can adjust it along the journey. And we like to see them looking loved and a little bit short by the end of the year. So we go, bit scruffy. I think you might have moved off. It got paint and stuff all over you. So I can move on to the next one. But we try and get 12 months out of it. Some of the very small children will prove us wrong at that if they have a rapid growth spurt or if they suddenly have their feeding program changed and put on a lot of weight. And an occasional very tall adolescent will make a difference in terms of height, and you think, wow, you've grown out of that faster than we thought. But that's pretty unusual. Most people we would see would get 12 months out of the split. except for the tiny tots, probably closer to 8-9 months for that group.
And could I ask, just for the Australian therapists and parents that are listening, what is, I guess, your success rate on getting these things funded? So for people that do come to you and say, hey, I want a second splint, in an Australian funding scheme, is it pretty well received? Is it, half the people get them, 80%, 100%? Like, what would be your best guess as to the amount of clients that you see for an assessment to actually get an approval for it?
Get approval for their funding, as long as the case can be made that it's going to assist to achieve the goals that you're aiming for in your overall therapy program. So the therapists have to be able to justify that. And we've got to know when we meet you too that it's something that would fit into your program, do the right thing, be worn all the time, because no one's going to fund anything a second time that has stayed in the cupboard and not actually been on.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it is also about analytical reasoning, making sure that at the right time fits in with your program, all of those things, and everyone's ready to do it, so that we can then be able to justify that in terms of funding. But we don't get a lot of rejections of funding, because most of the clients we see have a great team around them that actually assists with that process, and we're able to justify that going forward.
Okay. So talk to me as if like I am a therapist now, and I've working with kids between 2 years and 10 years, and I see a lot of cerebral palsy clients. I'm an Australian. Sorry, Anton. Or even if you're international, so what is the process? So say right now I've listened to this podcast and I'm, I've been trying to support my clients through postural care and their seating. I've explored sleeping systems, but they're still, I'm still worried they're getting twisted and contorted. What's the next step? Do I contact Second Skin directly? Is this like a skill set that they need to develop? Like, what is the process to exploring the idea as to whether or not this is going to be suitable for someone's posture and function?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, in the sense of you've tried this and you've tried that, and you've been experimenting with things and it's just not exactly what you need. What else is a tool to help you that you can pull out of your therapy tool belt? And Second Skin could be it. We know that people don't sit in their wheelchairs every day, all day. People transition into Granny's lounge chair, or they go and sit on the school floor, or they have different mechanisms and assistive technology environments that they're in. So we need to think about what exactly they're going to be doing, and we need to make sure that their team is on board with that as well.
Yeah, so therapists send us videos, or families send us videos. We get lots of videos from parents and grandparents, for instance, saying, this is my child or our young person in action. This is what we want to make a difference to. Can you have a look? Who we love to see movement rather than just photos.
I got a gorgeous video today of a little boy who is working on his walking skills, and he was bushwalking in Cairns. It was the best video I've had. This gorgeous rainforest, and his mum was taking this video for us of him walking down this beautiful trail, sealed, accessible trail, and that really showed us, what his movement was like and when his struggles were. So videos are great. Yeah, videos are great. They really show the movement in action. Photos are also great as well. So we have an online portal on our website where you can upload clinical information, contact information, and some photos or videos. We'll look at that, and a therapist will look at that. It's not an admin who will look at that. A therapist will look at that and give you a clinical opinion on what they think could be the tool, splint or bodysuit, that could help them. That will go to the local therapist, and this is in an Australian context, that it will go to the therapist who know that person really well, and that person will facilitate the funding process from there.
If you're around the world and you're not sure, just go to Second Skin and check from there. Could I ask one more thing? What about if function's not the thing? Like, so with a lot of clients that I see, it's maybe they're in a tilt and space chair and they're non-verbal, maybe they're not expressive, but the therapist is just not wanting their life box. And for those who don't know, between your ribs and your pelvis, essentially, that little rectangle, we want to keep that rectangle as it is, and we're concerned of that rectangle collapsing and organs compressing. What's the justification there? Is it like too bad? Like, or is there still, can you still link that to function in some level?
And function, and this is probably my little bugbear, that the word function has so many definitions, and the people who have low function are assumed to have no function, and that's not the case. For someone to be able to open their life box up and to sit up and to see their loved ones, that is the most basic of function for someone. And I think that's so important to remember, that people don't have to move to have function. So that's my little bugbear. Thanks for listening to that. Sometimes the goal for clients, like the ones that you've just described, Justin, is that if you can be positioned well, a lot of things are easier in your day. So you'll then position well in your wheelchair as well as out of your wheelchair. We've got clients sitting in a postural split who want to go to somewhere like Dream World with all the shows and everything they can get on. They can get on those things in their split. We've got others who get on aeroplanes in their split because they can travel, be more upright and well supported while they do it. And we've got lots of clients where it becomes more and more difficult to see you, often because you've got so much spasticity going on, lots of rotation in your trunk, lots of time impacting on your day. And comfort's a real issue, skin integrity over time, and pain is a real issue. So if we can position you comfortably and protect your skin, marry that with a great seat together so that we've got you really well positioned, that impacts on your head position and your head control. And that makes a difference to everything, and how people look at you, how people talk to you. Lots of clients we see will say, I get sick of people talking to the top of my head. And so it's really nice to go to people's faces and have you so well positioned and talking to your face and your eyes and looking at your expression, looking for your eye blink, looking for your eye gaze technology. All those things are equally functional and as important as someone who's able to run. Different level of function, but equally important. Yeah.
I think that's a great place to sort of try and wrap the chat up, because we can just continue to chat to you guys all day long. And I would love to have you back on at some point. I'm sure we will. I'm 100% sure and confident that anybody listening to our this particular episode and the one previous will have gained a huge amount of knowledge and understanding around the benefits of second skin. If they want to get in touch with you guys, then, big shout out to that. You're able to go online to shout me out your website.
www.secondskin.com.au. And what's the UK one? Also the UK website.
If you're lazy like me, just Google second skin. But no, look, for any of the everybody listening, if you have any questions, you please send those in to the link attached. And also, please, Justin and I are absolutely loving producing this content for you guys. We're gaining loads of knowledge ourselves. But please do click like and prescribe. It is more important than you realize to us. So we really appreciate your support, anyone listening. Justin, anything you want to wrap up with? I have got lots that I'm going to take from today, for sure. I think takeaway number one, always make sure that you have a goal at the beginning of the assessment, so that we don't digress or deviate away from that. Next one, any other points for your takeaway, Justin? Main takeaway of the day?
My main takeaway is that you just said like and prescribe, which I thought was hilarious.
Like and prescribe. I think I did there.
I thought it was really clever. And then you didn't pause. I was like, oh, he's gone for it.
No, like and prescribe, but not subscribe, prescribe. Yeah, that's the language we're chatting, right? It's brilliant.
IoT.
That's it.
There's the slogan. I love it. Click like and prescribe. Yeah. Okay, cool. Not intentional, everyone. Thanks, Justin. But I'm sure everyone's giggling away back there. Is there a main takeaway from you on anything to do with posture?
I think you consider the idea of even just to consider second skin for clients who are really struggling with their seating position. Like I'm always looking at things through the lens of a wheelchair, and if someone's this, then we need to do this to the wheelchair, that's to the wheelchair. And, the past couple of years, I've started to explore sleep systems, and now I'm like, oh, now we're going to do sleep systems. And this is just another tool. And it sounds like it's, do this first and do this, do this after, but sometimes it can be before and after. It's not necessarily a segregation of wheelchair, sleep system, then second skin. It could be a second skin even before they even get in a wheelchair, so they can go for walks in cans and do all this kind of stuff. And I think, it's not just, I think I probably saw second skin as people who were a bit more functional, that are doing the walk in and need a bit of support, but it can very much be people with low function. And Andy, I love what you said. Low function does not mean no function.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's good.
we're gonna finish, guys. Thank you again for everything. Absolutely wonderful to chat again. Everyone who's listening, we will be looking forward to you coming on to us next time. But please don't forget, what should we do, Justin?
Like and prescribe and and send in all those questions. I bet there's a bunch of people listening with 1,000 questions for therapists in this area, and give us an excuse to bring Cathy and Andy back onto the show. So if you have any questions, send them through and we will ask them live on air.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for listening. Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
But